Hi, welcome to Matt Holman Golf. Thought I'd take a look at Greg Norman today. This footage from about 1990, 1991. I think he won sort of the stroke average, the Varden in 1990. Obviously world's number one for a long period. I think about 90 wins worldwide and some majors in there as well. So why don't we start on the right hand side here. I think his stock shot was a little bit of a draw, and you'll see that throughout his swing. He's hitting, it looks like a sort of 7-iron, 8-iron here. So I think the first thing really in his swing that we go from the left side as well. He has that slight forward press, orthodox looking setup, the front foot slightly flared open. And then his really sort of characteristic move, you're going to see a little bit of a bump into this right side. And I think earlier in his career you saw more of this sequence, a sort of reverse C finish. Now he did a lot of work with Butch Harmon and David Ledbetter in this sort of period to slightly tighten the movement. It has a very wide one-piece movement that you'll see with many of the Butch Harmon players, maybe not quite as much now, but definitely through 90s, 2000s, saw with Tiger and Adam Scott. It's a very wide move. This is something he worked on with Butch. Not too much wrist set going on there. You see a lot of guys in this era sort of already past 90 degrees by that place. Definitely left arm horizontal to the ground. You'll see a lot of guys with the shaft sort of vertical by there. So it's a very wide one-piece movement, an incredibly powerful movement. And then he has this strong lower body shift, really bumps nicely into his lead leg there. And I think partly what made him such a great driver of the ball, he had this nice bump into his right side, great width, allowed for a real nice shallow angle of attack that's key to be a great driver of the ball. And I think TPI now have done some great studies to show slight differences how the best drivers of the ball create about 80% of their weight in their right heel or right leg at the top of their swing. So I think this was really, it's hard to find good footage in 90s where we can clearly see the shaft, club head. Strong looking impact. He definitely doesn't sort of clear left side as much as you would see in some. We can sort of run from the right hand side. So relative to what we would say, a lot of guys would be on plane, he tends to be a little bit where he's so wide in that first move, slightly low and around. Ledbetter talks this sort of A-swing method. There's definitely sort of elements of that. He keeps the club face looking at the ball, which I really like. So you can see this really nice wide movement. And definitely this sort of, which we see with Jack Nicklaus, Fred Couples, lots of the very good players, this slightly across the line look there. So clearly pointing off to sort of right field. When you look at his swing late 90s, it was definitely became much more online. And as he got older, I think flexibility wise, but definitely in this era it was this sort of little bit across the line. But what he did so well, he got the club on such a good plane. The knees stayed so passive here. We can clearly still see the front knee when the left arm's past the horizontal. You can see that from face on. There's not this big sort of turning early, which if you get a player that gets long and across the line and then rotates their hips too quickly, it's going to be incredibly hard to sink the swing. The club head tends to get open, would start to travel too shallow from the inside in terms of in this direction, and lots of blocks and hooks. So you can see with Greg, he keeps those knees very passive, clubs out in front of you. I mean, that's really as good as that can be done there. Face starts to look back down. You see he's got this nice quiet lower body action here. I think one of his trademark movements, you're now going to see that sort of back foot there just sort of slide a little, and he's known for that movement. Keeps that right side very quiet, gives him plenty of room for his arms to swing past his body. Slight sort of roll release there into his trademark finish. Again, you're going to see that from face on, that foot, just that slight slide there. So what we'd see in a lot of guys, the right knee would have kicked up to the left quicker. So what I mean by that, they wouldn't have a gap in between those legs. So where he didn't have any gap, the hips have got to turn and move. So he would create that movement more through the foot now, sliding. And you can see that sort of early in his career, he had much more of this sort of C look there. I know that's something, the width, and they tried to reduce that sort of overly rounded finish off with his work with Butch Harmon. But, you know, one of the great swings of the game.